I hope you all are fine and doing well. So let's start our next unit, that is the unit number 2 of pharmaceutical microbiology, and the topic we are going to start is, as you can see in the image, I think you have a brief idea about the topic we are going to start. Yes, it is the sterilization methods. So what is happening here? Yes, we are used hand based alcohol based sterilizers. So what is the function of alcohol? What is alcohol doing with the microorganisms that are present in our hand? Is it completely kill them, or they will static them, or they will inhibit the growth? So we will see in detail what are the various sterilization methods. So first of all, just go by the definition of sterilization. Yes, sterilization is the method of complete removal of microorganisms from an object or from any surface. And how will we achieve sterilization? We will achieve sterilization by using different methods. There are different methods for achieving the sterilization. Please go by this image. So there are physical methods like heat, radiation, filtration. So depending upon the type of the material or the surface we have to sterilize, we will use the different sterilization methods. Okay, for example, if we have to clean our floor, what will we do? We use the disinfectant like phenyl or Lysol. For disinfecting, we will, don't worry, we will do this term also, what is disinfection, what is sterilization, what are antiseptics. So just see, I know you are all familiar with this. So this disinfectant is used to disinfect, or we can say sterilize, various bathrooms or floor. This is another example of a disinfectant. Okay, so this is the another disinfectant that we use to clean the floor. Again, a floor cleaner is there, but we use this antiseptic, and we will apply this antiseptic. We should apply this antiseptic on the skin also, but we cannot apply Harpic or Lysol on the skin. So we will do it in detail. So just I will give a brief idea. Antiseptics are the applied directly to the skin, whereas the disinfectants are not applicable for the skin. They are used to disinfect or sterilize various type of floors. You can say laboratory floors, washings, or bathrooms or toilets, etc. So you can see there are different method of sterilizing different things. So we have, basically we will do three methods of sterilization: physical method, chemical, and physico-chemical. Physico-chemical is nothing but is the combination of physical and the chemical method. Look at this. In the physical method, sunlight. Yes, nature gives us a gift, that nature has a natural sterilizing agent, that is in the form of UV rays, in the sterilize in the sunlight. Next is the heat. Yes, we can use two type of heat, that is the dry heat and the moist heat. Okay, just see, in the dry heat, red heat, flaming, incineration, hot air oven, infrared. Yes, we will do them each and every component. These are very, very simple, and we will do them one by one. See this is the physical method, red heat sterilization. This is flaming, and of course we know the sunlight, natural method of sterilization of waters in tanks, river, and lakes. So this is due to the presence of the UV rays in the sunlight. And I hope you know there are UV filters are now available. See this is what I got when I type in the Google UV filter home based. So these all are UV filter plus RO. So these are the filter that use the UV light for the disinfecting or sterilizing microorganisms. This is what we are going to use when we have to dry heat the sample, when we have to dry heat sterilize the sample. So nothing, this is nothing but it is a hot air oven. The hot air oven is used to sterilize different type of glassware, different type of powders, etc. So we will do it in detail also, that is a dry heat sterilization. Yes, you're right, we are using the autoclaves as a moist heat sterilization, and different type of surgical instruments are sterilized using the autoclave. Please see this, these are the different types of autoclaves. Just see, we have completed the dry heat and moist sterilization. Now, next physical method is the radiation, vibration, filtration. These all are also the methods of sterilization. Just see this, these are the two type of radiation basically, ionizing and non-ionizing. It is a longer wavelength, non-ionizing, and ionizing has a shorter wavelength. So these type of radiations are also used to sterilize different things. Yes, again, earthenwares. So these are the various type of pots that is used in ancient time to as a filter aid, as a water aid. Now we are using the RO filters or UV filters, but in the traditional times, these are the best method for the filtration. So we are also using these type of filters or for the even for the sterilization purpose. So we will do it in detail. How, what is the main aim of the sterilization? It is not always to kill the microorganisms, okay, because suppose in the case of filtration, what happening is the filtration, we do not kill the microorganism, we just filter out it, okay, we just filter out it to the other side. So these type of filters we are using in the laboratory also, that are known as the membrane filters. We will do each and every component of it in one by one. This is again asbestos filter. So next method is the chemical methods. So we are using chemicals like Dettol is also a chemical. Harpic, in Harpic there are different type of chemicals that constitute Harpic. So it is also included under the chemical method of sterilization. So let's see alcohol, aldehyde, phenol, halogen, heavy metal, surface active agents, detergents, dyes, and there are gases like formaldehyde, ethylene oxide or plasma also. Suppose in case of surfactants, there are different type of surfactants like ionic, non-ionic, cationic and amphoteric. So these type of surfactants are also used as a sterilization method. Yes, HCHO, formaldehyde gas, is again used as a sterilization agent. Just see the ethylene oxide sterilization. So yes, this is sterilization methods that are applicable for different type of electrical instrument, flexible fiber, etc., etc. So we will also cover this gas. Yes, we again came with isopropyl alcohol, that is a 70% widely used. Even today it is maximized its use as a hand sanitizer. Suppose if I ask you, how will we sterilize milk? Yes, you all are right. The exact method is the pasteurization, and pasteurization is further classified into developed into different type of temperature ranges or different type of methods. Okay, so we will cover each and every aspect of sterilization in this unit. So let's see again the definition of sterilization. So sterilization refers to any process that removes, kills or even deactivate all forms of life. Particularly we are referring to the microorganisms, and microorganisms mean fungi, bacteria, viruses, spores, unicellular eukaryotic organisms such as plasmodium, etc. Okay, present in any specific surface, object or food or the biological culture media. And how it is achieved? Yes, it is achieved by using various methods, and we have covered it: physical, chemical, and the combination of physical chemical, that is the physico-chemical methods. So I hope you have a brief idea or brief overview of the unit number 2, that is topic is sterilization methods. So we will cover each and every method in the next video tutorial. Thanks for your listening and your time. Yes, in the end, I acknowledge all the online platforms that I have used to prepare this video, especially YouTube, SlideShare, Google Images, etc., and other online platforms for preparation of this video. This video is not intended for any of the commercialization purpose. It is only intended for you, for your students, for the education purpose only. Thank you. I welcome you all in the next topic, that is the sterilization. So we have started the basic part of sterilization. So in this video lecture you will able to know about the different sterilization methods. We will start with the physical method now. So as you can see, the physical methods are divided into various other methods. So first of all, there is a very common method, that is the sunlight. Then heat, we will divide the heat into two parts, dry heat and moist heat. In dry heat, we will use the oven part. That is a hot air oven. Red heat is there, flaming, incineration and infrared is there. And in moist heat sterilization, we will use the autoclaves, and the temperature ranges are of different types. Next is the vibration. Then in radiation, we will cover the two radiation, that is the ionizing and the non-ionizing. In the filtration part, we will see the different type of filtration media. So let's start the physical methods. So the sunlight, so it is responsible for spontaneous sterilization natural conditions. As we see in the previous lecture also, there are sunlight, but what is happening is the UV rays. So with the help of ultraviolet light, it is helpful in killing bacteria suspended in water, and it provides natural method of disinfection in tanks and lakes. Yes, the sunlight. So the next method is the drying. So basically in dry heat sterilization, dry heat is used for sterilizing different materials. So dry heat sterilization is a process based upon the principle of conduction. See this image of conduction. What is happening here? Heat is absorbed by the outer surface of an item and then passed onwards to the next layer by layer. Ultimately, the entire item reaches the proper temperature needed to achieve sterilization. So, how it is killing microorganism? So, dry moisture leads, basically dry moistureless heat destroys microorganism by causing the denaturation of the protein that is present in the microorganism, and it also causes the breakdown or the lysis of the protein in many organisms and cause oxidative free radical damage that ultimately causes the death of a microorganism, means sterilization achieved. Just see the temperature ranges in the dry heat sterilization. That is the temperature range is 160 to 180 degrees Celsius, and it is achieved in the laboratory, in our college, in our laboratory, with the help of hot air oven. So it also depending upon the temperature conditions, temperature time is there. So also requires exposure time up to 2 hours. So we have to heat the sample in the oven up to 160 to 180 degrees Celsius in the temperature time up to 2 hours. See the image of the hot air ovens. So these are the oven that is also present in your laboratory, and we will definitely going to cover the practical part also. So this is the various parts of this hot air oven. Basically we will use the double perforated jackets are used. We will definitely going to cover this in the practical portion also. Okay, so let's see the moist heat sterilization. Yes, we will use autoclave for achieving this sterilization, that is the moist heat sterilization. So yes, moist sterilization is one of the most effective method where we use the steam under pressure. Even in household pressure cookers, steam under pressure is used to cook the food. Okay, and in moist sterilization, basically temperature ranges from 121 to 134 degrees Celsius, and the instrument is the autoclave. So the higher pressure increases the boiling point of water and thus achieve a higher temperature for sterilization. And this higher pressure also facilitate the rapid penetration. Basically, pressure facilitate the penetration power of the steam, or we can say heat. So heat will get easily penetrated into the microorganism and causes what it causes, the coagulation of the microbial protein, which ultimately leads to the loss of function and the inactivity or the death of microorganism. So basically moist sterilization is applicable for surgical dressings, surgical instruments, or the bottle fluids, and there are different temperature ranges. For example, 134 degrees Celsius for 3 minutes for surgical dressings and 121 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes for the bottle fluids. So it is used for decontamination of laboratory waste, sterilization of laboratory glassware, media, different reagents, and generally 121 to 134 degrees Celsius for 15 to 20 minutes under this 15 lbs pressure. These are the units of pressure. And it is also used in different type of diagnostic equipments, container, aqueous injection, ophthalmic preparation, irrigation fluid, etc. So all this method is widely applicable in industry. So this is the surgical instrument autoclaving. Just see here, all the surgical instruments are put into the autoclave. So the next method, you can see the red heat sterilization. In this, a very simple method. You have to put the sample and till it become in the flame and it become the red heat. Holding the sample in the Bunsen burner till they become the red hot. And it is used for different bacteriological loops. I hope you remember about the inoculation loop of the bacteria. So we will sterilize the inoculation loop using this technique, again straight via tips of forceps and spatulas also that we are using in the culture media or any other purpose. We will sterilize with the help of red heat or red hot sterilization. Next is the flaming. So it is a simple method in which passing article over a flame but not heating it to redness. In the previous method we have to red heat the particular sample, but in this not heating it to redness. So just this is known as the flaming. So mouth of test tubes, scalpels, flask, glass slides and cover slips are sterilized by this method. So next is very important again, the incineration method. So incineration, in this process of sterilization we use the apparatus that is known as the incinerator. You see the image of industrially used incinerator. These are the incinerators that we use in the industry, but this type of incinerator is also used in our laboratory also, like muffle furnace. So this is the incinerator that we use in the laboratory. So the incineration is a waste treatment process that involves of organic substances contained in the waste materials. So what is happening here? We have to put our sample in this incinerator, and what is happening? It will convert it into ash. So incinerator are used to convert any substance into ash. So this method also burns any organism to the ash, and it also used to sterilize medical and other biohazardous waste before it is discarded with the non-hazardous waste. So it is also used to counteract the biohazard. So incinerator are also used to animal carcasses. So suppose if you are working on a suppose an animal, suppose आपने एंटी वायरल एक्टिविटी चेक करनी है किसी भी सैंपल की, आपने सबसे पहले एनिमल लिया, उसको आपको वो बीमारी इंड्यूस करवानी पड़ेगी। सबसे पहले आपको सपोज आपने किसी एनिमल पे वायरस इंजेक्ट कर दिया और आपका प्रैक्टिकल कंप्लीट हो गया, तो आप क्या करेंगे? क्या आप उस एनिमल को उठा के सीधे जमीन में गाड़ देंगे? नहीं। आप उसको बाहर फेंक देंगे? नहीं। क्या सबसे अच्छा तरीका क्या है? हम उस एनिमल को इंसिनरेटर में डाल के पूरी तरीके से डिकम्पोज करेंगे ताकि किसी भी तरीके का वायरस एनवायरनमेंट में जाके नुकसान ना करे। सो incinerators are largely used to animal carcasses, decomposition of the animal carcasses, animal shove. So next is the IR radiation. So again this is very important method. In this the radiation is absorbed, that is converted into the heat energy. So what is happening? IR radiation is nothing but is the thermal radiation. So when absorbed by some article, its energy is converted into heat. Okay, and it is known as the radiant energy. And basically we use the tunnel of the IR source for this purpose, and we will kept all the instrument glassware in the trays, and we will pass the instrument through this tunnel, and a particular temperature condition is melt, that is 180 degrees Celsius for 17 minutes to achieve the sterility. Just see here, this is the infrared, yes, radiation sterilization chamber, sterilization oven. We will put our samples here at a particular temperature condition and it will get sterilized. So see you in the next video. Acknowledgement. I welcome you all in the next video tutorial of the sterilization. So we have covered so far the heating method, that is a dry heat, and the moist sterilization. So as far as the radiation is concerned, it is divided into two parts, ionizing and non-ionizing. So in non-ionizing, we have already covered the infrared radiation. So let's see the non-ionizing radiation, the UV light, and the ionizing radiation like X-ray and the gamma rays as a sterilization agent. Sometimes there is a basic question asked in examinations, particularly in the competitive examination like GPAT, what is hot sterilization, what is cold sterilization method. So remember this thing, ionizing radiation, that is the cold sterilization methods, include X-ray and gamma rays, whereas the hot sterilization method includes the infrared rays and the UV rays. Okay, so again, the UV rays, these are used to disinfect in enclosed areas such as the entryways, operation theaters, and particularly in the labs. Yes, UV radiation include different light rays ranging from 150 to 3900 angstrom. So see this has a different range in different units. If you able to remember the nanometer, you can write the nanometer wavelength. If you able to remember the angstrom unit, you will write the angstrom unit. So above which 2600, that is the 2600 angstrom, has the highest bactericidal effect. So as you can see, this is spectrum of light. Here is the bactericidal effect of UVC light, because UV light is divided into different types as per their wavelength, like UVA, UVB, UVC. So UVC, that is the perfect for the germicidal action, 264 nanometer. So this is the unit in the nanometer. Okay, so always remember this unit in nanometer or angstrom. So here is the region of the visible, and this is the infrared vision. So you can see here, this is the UVC light, that is the germicidal action. And these are various chambers, operation theaters in which UV light is used to kill bacteria. There is again sterilization by using UV light. Just see here. Okay, so this is the UV light that kill even viruses. So this is the some of the lab wares that is used to sterilize the using UV light. Even it tackle the coronavirus to some extent. We can say to some extent it is used to sterilize various laboratory wares and various surgicals. Okay, just see this. So what happened? The non-ionizing waves have a very little penetration power. So microorganisms only on the surface are killed. So what happened? Upon exposure, these waves are absorbed by marine material, particularly the nucleic acid. As a result, the formation of the pyrimidine dimers, which bring error in the DNA replication and cause the death of microbes by mutation. First, see this image of DNA. I am talking about the bacterial DNA. So what UV light is doing? It will destruct it. So just see this. So this pyrimidine dimer is formed due to UV light, and due to this there is a disarrangement, or you can say the malfunctioning in the DNA replication process take place, and it will resulted into the death of the bacterial cell. Just see here. So it has a direct or indirect action on the bacterial cell. Just see this image, the effect of UV radiation on the DNA. The UV exposure have broken the bonds in the DNA and cause thymine dimers to form. And this results in a microorganism inability to grow or replicate, or in simple words we can say it inhibits the process of DNA replication. Yes, in the end, I acknowledge all the online platforms that I have used to prepare this video, especially YouTube, SlideShare, Google Images, etc., and other online platforms for preparation of this video. This video is not intended for any of the commercialization purpose. It is only intended for you, for your students, for the education purpose only. Thank you. I welcome you all in the next video tutorial of pharmaceutical microbiology. So we have started the topic that is sterilization part, and so far we have completed the physical methods in which we have completed the heating method, and in the radiation we have completed the infrared as well as the UV light. So in this video tutorial, we are going to cover the two ionizing methods of sterilization technique, that is the X-rays and gamma rays. How these X-ray and gamma rays act as a sterilizing agent. So let's see. So X-rays and gamma rays, these are the most commonly used ionizing radiation for sterilization. You see here, in physical method, in radiation, X-rays and gamma rays are example of ionizing radiation, whereas infrared and UV light are the examples of non-ionizing radiation in the physical methods. So how they act? These are high energy radiation which causes ionization of various substances along with water also, and that ionization resulted into the formation of large number of toxic oxygen metabolites like hydroxyl radical, or you can say superoxide ion, and even S2O2 through the ionization of water. And these metabolites are highly oxidizing agents and has ability to kill microorganism. Okay, let's see the process again. So radiation, they are very lethal to the biological organisms. So during sterilization treatment, the sample which is to be sterilized is bombarded with high energy of electron, or you can say high energy radiations, which leads to the formation of extremely unstable free radicals. So particularly generation of these free radical causes the disruption in the process of DNA replication. As you can see here, with ionizing radiation, microbial resistance decreases with the presence of moisture. So as a result of increased free radical production. So this method is widely used to sterilize various things like surgical instruments, ointments, plastic syringes, and dry pharmaceutical products. So let's see these radicals, how these radicals are produced. Just see this image. The gamma radiation resulted into the formation of free radical. This is only our prime concern, that is, it resulted into the formation of free radicals. These are superoxide ions. So these type of ions are produced by the gamma radiations. This is the superoxide. So let's see again. So radiation part, physical methods. The gamma rays, these are very penetrating and are commonly used for sterilization of medical equipment such as syringes and needles. Apart from X-rays, these form ionizing energy, allowing to irradiate large packages of sterilization of medical equipment. So these type of radiations are used to sterilize various type of medical equipments. Please see this image. So these all are the medical equipments. So lastly, please remember this thing, all these metabolites, these are the radicals produced by the radiation. They are highly oxidizing agent and they have ability to kill the microorganism. Okay, so that is all about the radiation. We will do the next part in the next video. Thank you for listening. Yes, in the end, I acknowledge all the online platforms that I have used to prepare this video, especially YouTube, SlideShare, Google Images, etc. and other online platforms for preparation of this video. This video is not intended for any of the commercialization purpose. It is only intended for you, for your students, for the education purpose only. Thank you. I welcome you all in the next topic of sterilization. So far, we have covered different physical methods like heat and radiation. In this video tutorial, we are going to cover the most important method of the physical, that is a filtration method as a sterilizing agent. So let's see how this filtration help or aid in removing the microorganisms. So filtration, yes, it is a mechanical method and it helps to remove bacteria from heat sensitive liquids. Where we are having the heat sensitive liquid, we will follow this filtration method. So let's see. Yes, it is used to sterilize sera, sugars and various antibiotic solution. So it is widely used in the purification of water. We use the filters in our home also. There are different type of filters available in the market now. So filtration is widely used for the purification of water. Yeah, so there are several type of filters like candle filters that we use in our home, asbestos, sintered glass filter. This is a sintered glass filters. Membrane filter widely used for filtering a sample related to the sophisticated instruments. Air filter and syringe filters. So this is the common example of sinter filter that we are going to use in our laboratory also. So this is the flask basically. So it has an opening for the vacuum. Here we can connect a vacuum. And here this is a sintered. This is a filter and this is closed. This is a sinter filter. Here you can put your sample and when you apply the vacuum, the sample will go inside this filter and will all the material, all the residue that is to be separated out here, and the free from contaminated material finally collected inside this flask. So this is the photograph of the candle filters. So particularly they are made up of porous porcelain, or you can say kieselguhr material. They are widely used as a household filter also and used for the purification of the water as well as in the industry. This is the asbestos filter, that is the magnesium trisilicate. So the pore size varies. The pore size of this filter, particularly asbestos filter, varies from 0.01 to 5 microns. And it has been reported that this filter is not recommended because it causes carcinogenic action also. It has a cancer causing properties. So this is not recommended. So this is the common lab filters, that is the sinter filter that we use in the laboratory. Again, a very important filter that we use in the industry and our laboratory also, that is the membrane filter. So these are basically these type of paper filter or the membrane filter. So they are made, this is made up of cellulose ester or other polymers and particularly used for the water purification and different analysis. Suppose in your upcoming semester you will able to know the different techniques like chromatography and spectroscopy. So whenever you will load a sample in a sophisticated instrument, you have to filter out the sample, and for that you will use membrane filters to filter out that particular sample. Otherwise it might cause the distortion in your process, or might cause the improper functioning of the machine also. So they are of 150 micrometer thick and contain millions of the microscopic pores ranging from 0.01 to 10 micrometer in diameter. So what happen? Basically, filtration do not kill the microorganism. It will just filter it out. Okay, so I think this is clear. Yes, as we have discussed, all the microorganisms are just separated out. Okay. Yes, it had advantages like membranes are disposable, hence there is no cross contamination of these membrane filters. So let's see again. So filtration is a unique method of sterilization because it removes rather than destroys microorganisms. Yes, it is capable of preventing passage of both living or non-living, or you can say active or non-active, viable or non-viable particles, and can thus be used for both clarification, means filtration, and sterilization of liquids and even gases also. We can also sterilize the air. You can see later part how to sterilize the air, because suppose you have to do a practical related to the inoculation of a bacteria. Suppose you are working on a bacteria and you have to inoculate that sample, or even you are working in a ophthalmic laboratory. Ophthalmic products are those products which are intended for eyes, or you are working for a parenteral preparation. Suppose you are preparing an injection. So what was happening there, the air that is came inside the laboratory or the working place should be completely sterilized. It should be devoid of any microorganism. It should not contain any microorganism, because otherwise it will contaminate our sample. So in that case, we use several type of filters that is used to sterilize the air. Okay. So let's see again filtration or sterilization of liquids. So in this, membrane filters are used. Okay. And for sterilization of gases, you can see this is most important. HEPA filters are used. So to sterilize the air, we use this filter, that is HEPA, means high efficiency particulate air filter. This is the full form of HEPA. And what does it do? Yes, it has a capacity to remove up to, see this, 99.997% of particles of any microorganism whose particles is, you can see, greater than 0.3 mm in diameter. So this is the photograph of HEPA filters. This is what the HEPA filter looks like. Please see this image. This is the HEPA filter ceilings in the operation theater. So we need, in operation theater, sometimes we need to have air that is free from any microorganism. So for that, this is the arrangement of the HEPA filter in the ceiling. So see other applications, that is in the use on tissue and microbial cultures. Okay, and where this is the HEPA filter are used. Yes, it will capture the dust, the pollens, the mite. You can see here. Just see here. Okay, bacteria, smoke, particulate matter. So these all are the under the range of the HEPA filter. So let's see more applications. So always remember this thing. Pharmaceutical microbiology is very important component of the GPAT examination. There are at least 10 to 15 questions came asked from this subject only, and this is a very important topic, that is the HEPA filter. Just this question, I got this question from the internet. HEPA filters are used in, see the option, autoclaves, laminar airflow hoods, gas sterilizer, oxygen mask. So let's see this answer, question number 46. Answer mentioned is B. So the answer is laminar airflow. So let's see what is this laminar airflow. See the image, it looked like this. So this is also available in our college, in your laboratory, in the biotech lab. Yes, we have a laminar airflow assembly. Just see the use. So laminar airflow is basically it is a hood, or you can say tissue culture. So it is widely used to culture a plant tissue culture, or even in the microbiology for culturing the microorganism, we will use this laminar airflow environment. So it is designed to prevent the contamination of various biological samples. And the air is passed through a HEPA filter which remove all the airborne contamination and maintain the sterile condition. So means it is a particularly is a hood in which there is a HEPA filter is attached. So please see this image. So this is the arrangement of the your laminar airflow is there, and as we have discussed, this is the point for the HEPA filter. Okay, this is the exhaust for the HEPA filter. So you will work in this assembly. So as I told you, proper lab, you have to follow the proper SOP. There is a SOP for everything. There is, you need to wear proper gloves, proper mask, proper, each and everything should be done. Otherwise it might cause some serious trouble to you. That's why the Dharmanand has asked a question about this. Yes, the question is very good. You must wear, you must take into consideration all the safety parameters, because safety is first. So I think this is clear. You have brief idea about the HEPA filters. So see you in the next video. Thanks. Acknowledgement. I welcome you all in the next video tutorial of sterilization. So in the previous videos, we have covered various methods related to the dry heat sterilization, moist heat sterilization, and the radiation, which include ionizing and non-ionizing radiations. So in this video we are going to cover a method of sterilization that is known as the vibration. So even sound waves are also used to sterilize a particular instrument, a particular article. Okay, the sound waves having frequency greater than 20,000 cycle per seconds have ability to kill bacteria and also some viruses when exposed to a particular time, that is approximately 1 hour. And the ultrasonic, or you can say sonic vibration, have bactericidal properties. So just see here, the sound waves of frequency greater than 20,000 cycle per second kill bacteria when exposed to 1 hour. So high frequency sound wave disrupt various bacterial cells, and this is used to clean and disinfect various type of instrument as well as to reduce microbial load. I hope you are familiar with term that is the microbial load. We have already covered this in unit number 1. So yes, this method is not reliable sometimes, since many viruses and the phages, that is the bacteriophage, are not affected by these type of ultrasonic, or you can say sound waves. And sometimes it is also referred to as cold boiling. So cold boiling is a process that is used in the ultrasonic vibration. So in our syllabus we have just a general part. We will not go in detail about the vibration because it is not that much important for our examination point of view also. So that is the vibrations. Let's see some photograph of the instrument that is used to sterilize. Here this is the ultrasonic apparatus. Ultrasonic cleaning is done. Ultrasonic apparatus is there. You can also known as ultrasonic bath. Okay, because we will immerse the sample like this way. In density in the dentist practice, ultrasonic cleaners, or you can say ultrasonic baths, are frequently been used. Just see here, these are the various surgical instruments that are taken in this apparatus, that is the ultrasonic bath, and there are different type of ultrasonic baths are available. Please watch this video for 30 seconds for more clarity. So as you can see, this is the ultrasonic bath. We in this bath we use different type of disinfectants also that is used to clean the instruments. So here it is. So this is very important. Always wear all the safety gadgets that are required as per SOP, and you can put water in this ultrasonic bath and a particular amount of the disinfectant also at a particular concentration. So after that, when you put to a particular mark, then next step is to on the apparatus, and this process is known as the degassing. Basically that is the mixing of disinfectant with the water, and you can put your sample in this way and just start the processing and cover with the lid. So basically the slow motion photograph. In this way the disinfections, or you can say sterilization, achieved, and this process is followed by the drying, and finally you will see the disinfection of your particular instrument. So this is widely used in the dentistry also, in the different type of surgical instrument related to the dental dressings, etc. So let's see again. Ultrasonic vibrations are the high frequency sound waves, and they are beyond the range of the human hearing. And we should know about the human hearing. The human, we are able to hear the frequency of the sound that is between 20 to 20,000 hertz. This, please remember this point also. Okay, so what happened? Ultrasonic waves, or you can say wave frequency above 15,000 cycle per second, can cause bacteria to cavitate. So cavitation is nothing but it is a phenomena in which rapid changes of pressure in a liquid leads to the formation of small vapor filled cavities in the places where pressure is relatively low. So see again, cavitation is nothing but is the formation of partial vacuum in a liquid, and particularly in this case the fluid cytoplasm in a bacterial cell. So this resulted into the basically the disintegration of the bacteria and the denaturation of the bacterial protein. So ultimately sterilization is achieved. So that is all about the vibration or ultrasonication. So I hope this will give you a brief idea about the vibration as a sterilization technique. Thank you for listening. Yes, in the end, I acknowledge all the online platforms that I have used to prepare this video, especially YouTube, SlideShare, Google Images, etc. and other online platforms for preparation of this video. This video is not intended for any of the commercialization purpose. It is only intended for you, for your students, for the education purpose only. Thank you. I welcome you all in the next topic of sterilization methods. So far, we have covered the physical methods like heat, dry heat and moist heat, and in radiation, we have covered ionizing, non-ionizing, and we have also covered the filtration. So why I am showing you this? Because we are going to start yet another topic that we have covered, that is the moist heat in detail. Because we have covered superficially the moist heat. As you can see, the moist heat, it divided into three methods, or according to their temperature ranges. Yes, it has a mechanism of denaturation, coagulation of protein. It caused the denaturation and coagulation of the bacterial protein, and hence resulted into its disruption. It is divided into three temperature ranges, that is below 100, at 100 degrees Celsius and above 100 degrees Celsius. This method we have completed, that is above 100 degrees Celsius, that is the autoclaving. So when the moist heat is below 100 degrees Celsius, it is known as the pasteurization method, and when it is at 100 degrees Celsius, it is known as the tyndallization method. Yes, Louis Pasteur, he is the person who developed pasteurization. Again, very important personality, John Tyndall, concept of tyndallization. So let's start. Temperature below 100 degrees Celsius. Yes, it is used for sterilization of the milk, ice cream, yogurts and fruit juices. And in this temperature, only the heat tolerant microbes can survive. Okay, we cannot say that it is 100% free from microorganism while using this method. So heat tolerant microorganisms are there, they can survive also. So the temperature below 100, that is the pasteurization of the milk. It is developed by, yes, we have seen his photograph, Louis Pasteur, to prevent the spoilage of beverages. Used to reduce microbes responsible for spoilage of beer, milk, wine, juices, etc. And the milk is exposed to 65 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes. There is a term known as the inspissation. So this is important. It is the process used when heating high protein containing media. And in inspissation, what is the heat range? The temperature range is the 80 to 85 degrees Celsius for half an hour for 3 consecutive days. This is important. So the next method, that is temperature below 100 degrees Celsius, is the HTST, that is used widely in the different type of milk pasteurizing plants. HTST stands for high temperature short time pasteurization. So this is the HTST, continuous plate pasteurization for milk. And the milk is exposed to 72 degrees Celsius for 15 seconds. So why high temperature short time? Because high temperature is only for 15 seconds. So HTST is one of the method of the pasteurization of the milk. And it is also known as the basically the flash pasteurization, which involved heating milk to exact temperature range is 71.7 degrees Celsius for 15 seconds. This is important. Coxella burnetii, this is the most heat resistant pathogen present in the raw milk. Okay. So as we know, it is impossible to bring the milk to that exact temperature range. So it is always safe to work with a range of temperature that is to be safe, that is between 72 degrees Celsius to 74 degrees Celsius for 15 to 20 seconds. And what was happened, this will ensure that milk is heated uniformly to the required temperature. And this method is most suitable for continuous pasteurization systems. Just see this diagram, that is 4 degrees Celsius, the standard temperature of milk, then it was heated, ST is done, then again cooled. Okay, so next see the temperature at 100 degrees Celsius, that is the tyndallization. So it is nothing, again divided into 3, that is boiling. Boiling for 10 to 30 minutes may kill most of the vegetative form, but spores withstand boiling. Okay, that means spores do not have any effect of boiling. So what is tyndallization? It is steam at 100 degrees Celsius for 20 minutes on 3 successive days. Okay, so let's see what Wikipedia says about tyndallization. So it says it is a process that dates from the 19th century for sterilizing substances, developed by John Tyndall. Yes, right. And their ability to kill heat resistant endospores. Third one is the above 100 degrees Celsius, that is the temperature above 100 degrees Celsius. It targets both vegetative and spores. Okay, so it has ability to kill the vegetative part or the spores. Okay, let's see. So we are using the autoclaves in this. So they are different temperature ranges with respect to time. If you want to heat 121 degrees Celsius, then time should be 15 minutes. If the temperature increases, time is decreases. If the temperature is 126, then time will be 10 minutes. And the temperature is 134, then the time duration again decreases. It resulted into only 3 minutes. So there are different type of autoclaves that we use in the laboratory, like vertical autoclave. In this way, this is the example of the vertical autoclave, and this one is the horizontal autoclave. See this. So let me type in the Google vertical autoclave. I want to show you different photographs. Just write vertical autoclave. So here is written. Yes, so these all are the photographs of the vertical autoclave. Just I want to write in the Google horizontal autoclave. Here it is. Yes, this one is the horizontal autoclave. So I hope you have a brief difference between them, vertical as well as the horizontal autoclave. So autoclaves are generally used to sterilize glassware, ampoules, syringes. We have covered this. Gowns, surgical dressings, gloves, etc. It is not suitable for the anhydrous materials such as powders. So for drying of the powder, you can go for the dried sterilization also. Oils and fats. So these are the unsuitable ones. Yes, this method is more efficient. In some cases, we cannot say that in all cases. In some cases, it is more efficient than dry heat because it provides greater lethal and deadly effect of the moist heat. It is quicker because with the help of heating and pressure, you can easily penetrate inside bacteria and coagulation or denaturation of protein take place. Okay, so I hope you have a brief idea about the moist sterilization. 3 types, that is temperature below 100, pasteurization, at 100, tyndallization, and above 100, yes, autoclaving is there. So these are the references I have used to prepare this video. Yes, I acknowledge all the sources respectfully to prepare this video. So do not share this video in any electronic platform. So thanks for your patience and time. See you in the next video, and we will start with the chemical method of disinfection in the next video. Thank you. I hope you all are fine and doing well. So let's start the next topic in the sterilization series, that is the chemical method of sterilization. So after watching this video, you will be able to know about different type of chemicals that are used as a sterilizing aids. And particularly this video, I am using the reference of Dr. Sridhar Rao PN. He is currently assistant professor in the Department of Microbiology, JJMC MMC Devagiri College. So I fully acknowledge Sridhar sir for its valuable notes, and I personally found these notes are very valuable. You can also access these notes from www.microrao.com. So let's start. So the chemical method of disinfection, as the name indicates, we have to use the chemicals. So let's start. Disinfectants are those chemicals that destroy pathogenic bacteria from inanimate surfaces. Please see the meaning of these few terms: Inanimate means non-living or lifeless. Okay, so disinfectants, I hope you remember the video of antiseptic and disinfectant difference. Disinfectants are directly applied only to the inanimate objects, whereas the antiseptic might apply to the skin like Dettol. Okay, so let's show some of the properties of the ideal antiseptic. An ideal antiseptic, or you can say disinfectant, should have following properties. Yes, it should have a wide range of spectrum of activity, means it should able to kill, or it has a bactericidal action against the wide microorganism, against a wide range of microorganisms. Okay, so it should be able to destroy microbes with practical period of time. Yes, within the stipulated time. It should be active in presence of organic matter. Yes, very important. Should make effective contact and be wettable. Okay, should have an active in any pH, so it should not be pH directly, it should not have any direct effect on the pH value. So it should be stable, had long shelf life, it should be speedy and have a high penetrating power, should be non-toxic, non-allergenic, non-irritative, non-corrosive, should not have a bad odor. Of course, it should not leave any non-volatile residue or stain. So these are very simple. So these are basically the properties of an ideal antiseptic or disinfection. Okay, so let's start the important component, that is this one, this classification of disinfectants. So let's see, it is classified according, based upon their three methods, that is the based upon consistency, then the based upon the spectrum of activity, and the last is the based upon the mechanism of action. So let's see, based upon the consistency. So divided into two, liquid and gaseous. In liquid we have alcohols and phenols. We widely use these type of chemicals as a disinfectant agents. And in the gaseous we have formaldehyde and ethylene oxide. Very important. Okay, tell me where you heard about this gas. Ethylene oxide is also used as a, yes, in the fruit ripening, that is the gaseous hormone, ethylene. Please see this is ethylene, used as a fruit ripening. Please see the structure of ethylene. Okay, let's see, ethylene oxide, widely used as a disinfectant. So let's see. So second classification is based upon the spectrum of activity, that is the high level, intermediate and the low level. Okay, so disinfectant which are very high spectrum, or we can say which are active against large number of microorganisms, they are categorized into three types: high, intermediate and the low level. So low level have a action on very few microorganisms. Third one is the based upon the mechanism of action. Yes, the disinfectants, they act on the membrane like alcohol and detergents. Disinfectants like alcohol and phenols, they also act on they cause the denaturation of the cellular protein of microorganisms. Okay, and some disinfectants like hydrogen peroxide and halogens, okay, they cause the oxidation of the essential sulfahydryl groups of enzymes, okay, which resulted into the ultimately the denaturation of the protein and the death, or you can say the bactericidal action is achieved. Then the ethylene oxide and formaldehyde, these act by the alkylation of amino, carboxyl and hydroxyl groups. Okay, ethylene oxide and formaldehyde also act, that is damage to nucleic acid. They directly damage the nucleic acid of the microorganism and hence resulted into its disruption. Please see this table. This is a spectrum of activity. So it shows high level, intermediate level and low level. Look at this high level, it is active. Which type of examples? Ethylene oxide, glutaraldehyde and formaldehyde. These are active against viruses, yes, fungi, yes, spores, yes, mycobacteria and vegetative cells. Whereas the intermediate level disinfectants like phenolics and halogens, they are active against viruses, fungi but not against the spores. Again, the low level disinfectants like alcohols and quaternary ammonium compounds, they are active against viruses, fungi but not active against spores and mycobacteria, and also not active against few viruses. So let's see alcohol. So examples of alcohol generally use ethyl alcohol and IPA, that is isopropyl alcohol, and also the methyl alcohol. And application, how it is used, and I hope nowadays you all are familiar with the 70% ethyl alcohol that is also used as a, yes, as a hand sanitizer. So 70% aqueous solution is more effective at killing microbes than absolute alcohol. So you not need to use any absolute alcohol. Just see the meaning of absolute alcohol. Okay, absolute alcohol is a liquid alcohol that is contain 99% of pure alcohol by weight. So no need to use absolute alcohol. 70% is sufficient. Okay, so it can be used to disinfect various surfaces and is also used to disinfect clinical thermometers. And methyl alcohol kills fungal spores, hence it is useful in disinfectant inoculum hoods also. So just see, I will type inoculation hood. So I hope you remember this apparatus. This assembly is, yes, it is used to inoculate bacteria. So if you have to sterilize it, which is the best method, yes, you will go for the methyl alcohol. Okay. Yes, it has disadvantages like it is skin irritant and it volatilizes easily. It is also inflammable. Next is the aldehyde. So first of all, what is the mechanism of action? Yes, it acts through alkylation of amino, carboxyl and hydroxyl group and probably damage the nucleic acid which ultimately kill the microorganism including the spores. Examples, yes, HCHO and glutaraldehyde. Please see the structure of glutaraldehyde. So application, 40% formaldehyde, or you can say formalin, is sufficient for the disinfection. It is used to disinfect fumigation in the rooms, in the chambers, operation theatre and biological safety cabinets, wardroom, sick room, etc. So basically glutaraldehyde and formaldehyde is used as a fumigants. So fumigation, please see this. This is the image of fumigation. So in this way we can sterilize or disinfect various biological safety cabinets, sick room, etc. Okay. So there are different concentration like 10% formalin with 0.5% tetraborate. It is used to sterilize or clean metal instrument, whereas 2% glutaraldehyde is used to sterilize thermometer, okay, centrifuge, anesthetic instruments, equipment, etc. Always remember there are disadvantages like vapors must be irritating and it sometimes has a poor penetration and it leaves a non-volatile residue. This is the serious disadvantage. So next one is the phenol. It acts by disruption of membrane, precipitation of proteins and inactivation of enzymes. It talks about the microorganism enzyme. So examples, 5% phenol, cresol is also used, that is the 5% lysol. So 5% lysol is known as the cresol. And we have covered this. Chloroxylenol, Dettol, is also used as a antiseptic. Okay. And again the father of antiseptic surgery, Joseph Lister, he used this phenol to prevent the infection of surgical wounds. So basically phenols are nothing but they are coal tar derivatives and they are used as disinfectant at high concentration as well as antiseptic at low concentration. Yes, they are bactericidal, fungicidal and are inactive against spores and most viruses. Disadvantages include they are toxic and corrosive to skin and also irritant. So these are the reference I have used. So see you in the part 2 video. I welcome you all in the next video tutorial in the series of the chemical disinfection. So far we have covered the liquids, mechanism there, that is the alcohol and phenol. In this video tutorial we are going to see the other methods of the chemical disinfection. So let's start. So the next is the halogen. So how these halogen type materials, halogen type compounds, you can say they act as a microbicidal. So first of all they act by oxidizing agent and cause a damage by oxidation of the, see this, essential sulfahydryl groups of enzymes. So these are the functional groups which are required by several enzymes that are present in the microorganism and for their optimum and sustainable growth. Please see this, these sulfahydryl groups, they help to stabilize the structure of protein in various microorganisms. And the example include various chlorine compounds like hypochlorite. This is widely common use as a disinfectants. And iodine compounds like tincture iodine and iodophores. And how they apply? The tincture of iodine is very famous, that is 2% iodine and 70% alcohol is widely used as a antiseptic. Say this iodine tincture. This one is important. Iodine can be combined with the some polymers like PVP, that is polyvinyl pyrrolidone, to prepare iodophores such as povidone iodine. This is very common preparation, commonly used ointment in the wounds, etc. Just see here, I will type here povidone. Look at this ointment came. Look at this. This is the very famous ointment. This is the povidone iodine. So okay, so along with this, chlorine gas is also used to bleach water. Okay, so for disinfection of water, we use the chlorine gas, or sodium hypochlorite solution. Hypochlorite solution is also used. Okay, next is the, look at this, 0.5% sodium hypochlorite is widely used in serology and virology also. Okay, even now this COVID pandemic period, sodium hypochlorite is used to disinfect all the your examination room, your hospitals, your buildings, your halls, etc. Everywhere it is used. Okay, along with this, mercury chloride HgCl2 is also used as a disinfectant. Yes, it has a disadvantage, that is rapidly inactivated in the presence of organic matter. Next is the heavy metal. They also act as a disinfectants like mercury chloride, silver nitrate, copper sulfate. And there are many organic mercury salts like mercurochrome. Okay, so applications are 1% AgNO3 silver nitrate solution can be applied as eyes in the treatment of the various type of eyes disorder. Just see this image. See this article, silver nitrate ophthalmic solution. So it is previously been used in the ophthalmology also. I know you are wondering why I am showing this to you. Yes, you are right. Chandi ka work, because in various Indian dishes, this silver coating, basically chandi is used as a for the decoration purpose of the sweets. So let's see the next, that is the surface active agents. So surface active agents are nothing but these are the detergent basically. So what they contain? Surfactants are usually organic compounds that are amphiphilic, means they contain both hydrophobic or hydrophilic groups. Means they have hydrophobic tail and hydrophilic head. And when they add it into the liquid, they reduces its surface tension, thereby increasing its wetting properties. So they categorize into various types: anionic, cationic, non-ionic and amphoteric compounds. Just see here, hydrophilic head and hydrophobic tail. So the examples include soap and detergents. And the application, they are widely active against various vegetative cells, mycobacteria and enveloped viruses also. Okay, they are widely used in disinfection at dilution to 1 to 2% for domestic use and also in hospitals. Okay, next is the dyes. Yeah, we are using various type of dyes also, like acridine dye, which has a bactericidal action. This is the structure of the acridine dye. Other examples of dyes include aniline, such as the crystal violet dye, malachite green, brilliant green. These all dyes are widely used as a sterilizing agent also. And where they are used? Yes, application C. They may be used topically as an antiseptic for the treatment of mild burns. So next is the hydrogen peroxide. Very important, it acts on the microorganism through its release of the nascent oxygen. See the structure. This is H2O2. So applications, it is widely used as a 6% concentration to decontaminate different instruments like ventilators, and 3% H2O2 solution is also used as a skin disinfection and deodorizing wounds and ulcers also. Say this, H2O2 3% USP solution for wounds. Okay, this is the deodorizing of the wounds. So next is the ethylene oxide. Again, very important. This is an alkylating agent. Again, it acts by alkylating sulfahydryl amino, carboxyl and hydroxyl groups of various microorganisms. Okay, so applications, just see, it is highly effective chemisterilant. Chemisterilant means the chemical that is used in the sterilization, and it is capable of giving various type of spores. See other application, it is widely used to sterilize thermolabile substances such as the bedding, textiles, rubber, plastic syringes, disposable petri dishes, and various apparatuses like the heart lung machine, respiratory and the dental equipments also. Yes, it is highly toxic, irritation to eyes, then skin, highly flammable, mutagenic and also carcinogenic. Okay, that is all about the chemical disinfection. So let's see some of the chemical disinfection part from this book also. That is the Ashutosh Kar, very important, very renowned author. So I acknowledge Ashutosh Kar sir for this contribution of the pharmaceutical microbiology. So let's see. Just see here. So different type of disinfectant variants are used like alcohols, aldehyde, chlorohexidine. Then the gaseous sterilizations are there. This in which ethylene oxides, formaldehyde, glutaraldehyde is there. Okay, heavy metals. Then halogens, oxidizing agent, phenol, phenolics, quaternary ammonium compounds, and surface active agents. That is the detergents. So let's see. So first is alcohol. Yes, mechanism of action, disruption of the tissue membranes, and the dissolution of the several fats or lipids of the microorganisms. Yes, we have completed this. 70% concentration is very useful. IP is also used, that is the also known as the rubbing alcohol, isopropanol. Next one is the HCHO, that is the formaldehyde. What it causes? It causes the inactivation of the protein. And yes, it is used for inactivation of microbes and viruses in different vaccines also. This is glutaraldehyde. So next here is given, this is suppose chlorhexidine. This is also very commonly used. Just see this pic. So very famous formulations, very famous mouthwashes like hexidine, or you can say Listerine. So Listerine contain nothing but Listerine contain this chlorhexine or chlorhexidine compound. So it is widely used as a mouthwash also. So next given in this book is the gaseous sterilization or the gaseous chemosterilizers. Yes, ethylene oxide is there. So let's see, it causes the denaturation of protein, yes, and kills all microorganisms. Next in this classification is the heavy metals. Yes, heavy metals are also used like AgNO3, 1% weight by volume solution. Then mercury chloride is there, copper sulfate, zinc chloride are there. Okay, so next is the halogens. We know the chlorinated compounds are used like iodine in the form of iodophore. Okay, we have completed this. And chlorine gas is also used, which has a germicidal action. Again, hydrogen peroxide is there. This is a nascent oxygen. Okay, due to this it acts as a antimicrobial. In the category of phenolics, we have orthophenyl phenol and hexachlorophene. These are very important. So there is another category, that is quartz, quaternary ammonium compounds. Yes, quartz are herbicidal, fungicidal and also the virucidal properties. And examples include benzalkonium chloride. Please remember this is very important. See, this benzalkonium chloride is used as an antimicrobial preservative in ophthalmic preparations. Yes, we have surfactant active agents like surfactants. So finally, we have concluded this. So thank you for your patience and listening. These are the references. I welcome you all in the part 10 video of sterilization methods. So in this video tutorial, we are going to see so far what we have covered in this topic. Okay, and only after that we will take over to the next topic in the sterilization. So just see here, microbial control method or the sterilization methods, they are divided into three types. We have covered them. We have covered it already, like physical, chemical and the mechanical methods. Or you can say physical, chemical and the physico-chemical methods. Because in the previously we have included the mechanical methods in the physical also. I got this diagram from a book that is written by Prescott, Harley and Krenz, and it is the 7th edition of the book. Now let's see physical agents. So again, physical agent divided into two. We have covered it. That is dry heat using the ovens or incinerations. And the moist heat, we have covered the moist heat sterilization to 3 parts. Okay, I hope you remember all that. At 100 degree, then below 100 degree, and above 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, so just see here, moist steam under pressure, sterilization, boiling water, hot water, pasteurization included under the disinfection part according to this book. And again, in physical method, radiation is there, ionizing and non-ionizing radiation. We have already covered this also. We have already covered the chemical methods also, like in chemical method divided into two, that is the gaseous and the liquids. Just see the liquid part, that is apply on the living objects or the non-living objects. And for non-living, that is inanimate objects, we go for the disinfection. Okay. And for living objects, we go for the antisepsis or the antiseptics. Whereas in case of gaseous, we have different gases like ethylene oxide, or you can say formaldehyde, that is widely used for the sterilization and for the disinfection purpose. Last but not the least, as per this book, the methods are mechanical removal methods and divided into filtration. We have air filter and the liquid filtration. Okay, so I think this is clear. We have covered most of the majority of the microbial control method, or you can say the sterilization methods. So just see your syllabus. In your syllabus, let's we open your syllabus. Just see this. We have covered with unit number 2. We have covered this part. Okay, let me zoom a bit. Study applications and of the different methods of sterilization, like physical, then chemical, comma, here it is comma, gaseous, radiation, and the mechanical method, which include the filtration part. Okay, so far we have covered this topic as per your syllabus, and in the next video we will going to cover this part, that is the evaluation and efficiency of the sterilization method. How efficient they are. How efficient is the physical methods or the chemical or the gaseous sterilization methods or the mechanical method. So I hope this is clear. So see you in the next video. Thanks for your patience and listening.